Hello, everybody. Charles from GMAT Ninja Tutoring here. Welcome to episode number 3 in our series on that brand new lovely section, Data Insights on the new GMAT Focus. Today, we're going to focus on table analysis, one of the most straightforward looking of the question types that happened on the old integrated reasoning, now called Data Insights. It just looks like an Excel table, nothing fancy. So we're going to talk about how do you actually maximize your performance on these. So data insights section, for those of you who are new to it, 45 minutes, 20 questions. What GMAT has told us so far, table analysis is going to be 10 to 20% of the total. So 2 to 4 questions per section. Now they might hone that down the road. They say they're still tinkering with it. But for now, what we know is 2 to 4 questions that are going to be these tables. They're going to be marked all right or all wrong. Every table analysis question seems to have 3 sub-questions. If you miss any of them, you miss the whole question. So be careful. And that kind of brings me to kind of what's the point of all this? You've all seen Microsoft Excel. It might be what you spend 40, 50, 60 hours a week on, or Google Slides or whatever. All of you spend a lot of time on spreadsheets. Chances are, if you're a pre-MBA type person, very, very easy to sort them. You know what means are, medians are, that kind of thing. Not a whole lot of special math going on these for the most part. So they feel easy. You know how to sort a table. No big deal, right? Well, guess what? That's not the hard part. The hard part, going to sound silly, reading carefully, you're going to want to get complacent. You're going to look at some of the data that's presented and go, yeah, I know what this is telling me. And off you go. And that's how they're going to get you. I'm going to highlight some of my favorite questions today. I've done every table analysis question they've released so far. I'm going to highlight a few of my favorite ones that I think really kind of get at that essence of lulling you to sleep, making you go, oh yeah, I know what's up here. And then giving you an opportunity to trip over your own feet. The exam's not out to trick you. They're not out to trap you. They're out to kind of give you a test of how well can you pull insights from data. Now, if you're not really paying attention in the real world, also in these questions, you're going to get yourself into trouble. So that's what we're really going to focus today. Not a whole lot technical here, not a whole lot of special math here. We'll get more of that coming up in the next video on multi-source reasoning. Today, it's really just an exercise in execution, adaptive test. You miss the ones that are easy for you. That's when you get into big trouble. One quick note. They do get surprisingly creative with these. So the assumption is, oh yeah, these are going to be boring mean, median, mode kind of questions. That seems to be true in some of the resources. What I noticed is in the data insights review guide. So there's the official guide. Then there's kind of the thin little quant and verbal supplements. There's also one for data insights that's been released recently. Those questions seem to be a lot more creative to me. They veer off in some different directions. Nothing technical. Again, not a whole lot you need to learn. But that's a resource where you'll kind of get a taste for where GMAT seems to be taking these and see some pretty interesting questions. Again, all the same skill set. Read carefully, sort carefully, think carefully. Don't lunge at conclusions, because if you do, you're going to get yourself into trouble. Friendly reminder, you do have a calculator on data insights, not on quant. You don't need it very often. There's going to be a few moments today where you could use it. You probably don't need it. Most of the math is going to be common sense, but the calculator is there for you if you need it. All right. So I'm going to go through 4 questions today. If you are trying to watch this on mobile, please stop, switch over to desktop. You're going to need every bit of your screen. Now, one of the joys of table analysis is you've got to be able to sort that table. So I'm going to send you links for most of these questions today. I'm also going to put them up on the screen. So this first one, here's what it's going to look like. Where are we going here? There we go. Here's what it's going to look like. Obviously, when you're just looking at it on the screen, watching YouTube, you can't sort it. You need to be able to sort it. So go ahead and go to that link. I'll also toss it into the chat for the live audience. For people watching this later, it's going to be in the video description. Now, people watching it live, please let me know how you're doing. If you're struggling, if you think this is easy, think this is hard, you get your answers, please don't cheat and look. Love to hear what you're thinking. And for anybody here, if you're enjoying these videos, please like and subscribe. It helps other test takers find the videos. So if you're finding it helpful, somebody else out there will find it helpful. So please hit that subscribe button. Please hit that like button. All right, I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to tackle this one. Live crowd, and then we'll come on back. Enjoy. I'm gonna give the live group about 20 more seconds. If you have any impressions of this one, you're struggling, you got answers, let me know. All right. Lucky you in this video because you need to be able to look at a whole lot of stuff, be able to look at the table. Lucky you, you don't have to see me a whole lot. I'll stay pretty small over here. Okay, so we've got a grade book. Everyone's getting A's, B's, C's, D's, no F's apparently, worth 4, 3, 2, and 1 point each. Again, one of the things I said in the beginning here, remember, the challenge here is not sorting the table. That's not that hard. And by the way, table analysis, only a GMAT question type where you need to sort. That part's easy. Use Microsoft Excel all the time, Google Sheets, whatever it might be. Where you're making mistakes, if you're making mistakes, I can almost certainly promise it's something you're not processing into reading. It's something that you're not quite processing about the answer choice. You're lunging at a conclusion. That's where pretty much all the errors come from on table analysis. If you're looking at these and you're saying, oh, these are easy, now I can give you one, and we're going to give you some in a moment, that are harder than this one. This one's your warm up. Some of those that are harder, they're going to look easy and you're going to go, yeah, I got this. Whenever you hear that voice inside your head say, I got this, double check, double read. Double read. Sure, let's go with it. Read again, double check, because that's how you get yourself into trouble. All right, first question here, fairly straightforward. Which of these are true? Looking at a little grade book, we got 2 papers, 2 quizzes, a final project. Now, one thing I recommend across the board, data insights, take a breath, digest the information first. Don't just lunge at the questions. Make sure you understand the information that's given. If you don't read that little paragraph they give in these table analysis ones, that's where issues start to come in. Quick note for live viewers, getting some good questions in here in general about data insights. After we're done with this question, I'll address some of those about timing and all of that good stuff. Okay, question number 1 here. Each student who did not receive an A on the final project did not receive an A on either quiz. Okay, so I sorted by final project here, that rightmost column. So the people who did not receive an A on that final project, that's who we're interested in. We want to know how many of them, is it true or not, that they did not receive an A on either quiz. Okay, so let's focus down there. We got those guys that got B's down there on the final project. Anyway, so a bunch of B's there. Okay, so you got those last 3 folks. Is it true that none of them received an A on either quiz? Nope, we got Ian. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce it. Apologies if anybody's named Ian or Ian spelled this way. Please let me know. I'm actually really curious how the proper pronunciation. Anyway, we got a guy here. Did not receive an A on the final project. Got to be on the final project. Did receive an A on the quiz. So the answer to this one is no. Pretty straightforward. Just getting warmed up here. Second one. Each student who did not receive an A on either quiz did not receive an A on the final project. Now, a lot of ways you can sort this, and this is part of what they're testing you on. Can you be enterprising, have some guile in how you choose to sort things? Your instinct might be to sort by quiz. That's probably fine. You could do that. For me personally, I think it's a little bit easier to see this looking at the final project and going, wait a minute, almost everybody got an A on that final project. So the folks that received an A on the final project, is it true that all the people who didn't receive an A on either quiz did not receive an A? If I can find somebody who did not get A's on the quizzes and did get an A on the final project, then the answer here is no. Pretty straightforward. We got 2 people here. We got Stanley, B and C on the quiz and the final project. We also have Sietsky, B on the quiz, first quiz, C on the second quiz, and the final project. So students who did not receive A's on either quiz, but they did get A's on the final project. So this one is very much no. All right, I'm seeing plenty of mistakes from the live group, and I suspect very strongly a lot of you are being shy. Some of you folks might be struggling and not getting this. Looks really easy. Every student got an A on paper 1, got an A in the course. So I'm going to sort this time by paper 1. We just have these 2 people, Phoebe and Stanley. Props, Phoebe and Stanley. You got A's on the paper. Good job. They all got an A in the course. Well, my instinct is to say, well, yeah, look at that last column, final project. A. The answer here is yes. No, it's not. Final project is not the same thing as an A in the course. So again, this isn't the hardest question, not melting your face off here. This is our warm-up, probably the easiest of the 4 we're going to do today. read that paragraph, make it a habit. Just make sure you get your head around what's the information being presented here. That last column is not the final grade, it's the final project. That's different. How do you get the final grade? When you look at what's going on in that paragraph, every student's grade determined by computing the average. So you turn the A, B, C, D into numbers, 4, 3, 2, 1, take the average of those and then round it off. The final grades aren't in here. This chart should probably have one more column, right? That's the final grade. They didn't give it to us. So we just have to keep our heads screwed on. Again, none of this is rocket surgery, but if you're not paying attention, you can get punked by something like this. Okay, so we got two people here, Phoebe and Stanley. A's on paper 1, A's on the final project. What were the grades in the class? Well, check out. So Phoebe here with her 3 A's and 2 B's obviously got an A in the course. No problem there. What about Stanley? 3 A's, a B, and a C. Yeah, you want to watch your back. Let's do the math on that. What does that add up to? We know that A's are worth 4 points. B's are worth 3. C's are worth 2. So we can convert that into numbers up there. 4 plus 3 plus 4 plus 2 plus 4. My math is right. Gives you 17. Again, this is one of those moments. You want to lean on a calculator, go ahead. I have fat fingers. I'm more likely to make a mistake with the calculator than I am doing it in my head or doing it on paper. Don't automatically go to the calculator. You can get into trouble there. All right, divide that by 5. We get 3.4. That rounds down to a B. So our answer here is no. Every student who got an A on paper 1 did not get an A in the course because Stanley here botched that second quiz, got into trouble. Okay, so one of the things I promised is I've got some questions here in general about data insights, GMAT Focus. Let me see if we can hit a couple of those real quick before we go on to our next question. Let's see. There was one about timing here. There we go. Okay, Mohammed, thank you for the questions. So GMAT Focus Edition, Data Insights, all 3 sections, quant and verbal as well. You can change 3 answers. So Data Insights in this case, 20 questions, 45 minutes. You can change 3 answers. That does not mean you can skip them. You can't defer them to the end. You got to punch in your answers. So if you see a question and you're overmatched by it, say the same thing on quant or verbal, a little harder to tell on verbal if you're in trouble, but until you get to the end of the question. But yeah, if you see something and go, I have no idea what's going on, this is going to be a big old waste of my time. Great. Guess, flag it, move on at the end. You can change it if you have time left over. You can only change 3. So use that carefully. But yeah, you can change 3 answers. So don't let yourself get stuck. Related question. And again, I think we're going to do a general video at the end of this series, I think, on GMAT Focus in general, data insights in general. How do you approach it? How do you manage your time? But since these questions are popping up, I think they're worth answering because they're good ones. How can the computer adapt to an answer that you have not submitted yet? You have submitted it. So the computer does adapt because you have to submit answers. It's just that you can change 3 at the end. Will that warp things a little bit because maybe you're doing a little better and you're changing answers to easier questions? Yeah, but changing 3 answers isn't going to radically overhaul kind of the quality test. So it doesn't make a huge difference. You're changing 20 answers. Yeah, totally changes the test. I think I saw one more general question here that I wanted to hit. Yeah, some questions about timing here. So you've taken around 3 minutes to solve data insights questions. I'd be really careful with this. Again, we're going to talk about this more in a general session at some point in the next few weeks, I think. But any tips if you take around 3 minutes to solve data insights questions? Honestly, if that's what's happening, this sounds to me like you're probably getting stubborn on some questions that you maybe shouldn't be getting stubborn on. I would say the same thing about quant. You need to work on getting more efficient here. Now, I think it's the case that for most people, not everybody, it's really hard to get through 20 questions in 45 minutes. I think data insights is, for most people, going to feel really time pressured, just like its predecessor integrated reasoning did. That was super time pressured for most test takers. Data insights will feel that way too, I think, for most of you, not for everybody. So if that's the case, really the key is if you look at a question, you just have no idea what's going on, let it go, pick your battles carefully. If you're really averaging 3 minutes per question, I think the 2 things you can do is just keep working at it to build efficiency, become more efficient in your approach. A lot of these questions are really testing your flexibility. Next few questions we do are a really good example of it. Where do your eyes go? And if your eyes are going to the right places quickly and you're really sort of thinking in an enterprising way and not just diving in and doing stuff, but thinking about what you're going to do first, you'll get more efficient over time. So Vishal, and again, apologies for any mispronunciations. Piece of advice number 1, as you study, really focus on building your flexibility and efficiency. Second, yeah, you're not going to again, some of you will be able to get every question comfortably in 45 minutes. Many of you will not. Maybe most of you will not. Pick your battles. The ones that overmatch you, just let it go. Don't get stubborn. Don't get stuck. Really easy to do that. Let questions go. Remember, you can change 3 at the end. So again, piece of advice number 1, learn to be more flexible. That might help you at the margins. The second bit is, yeah, maybe you do have to let some go, but I wouldn't say a blanket statement. Oh, let's try to get. Chances are, if that's all you can answer comfortably or correctly, you have room to gain in terms of either building efficiency or not getting stubborn on the ones that are real trouble. Ideally, you're spending that 45 minutes on the questions that are most in your wheelhouse and you're letting the rest go. That's a skill. It's something you develop over time, and it can take some time. All right. Any other general questions here I need to hit? I think that is it for now. Fantastic. Okay. Let's hit this next question. So here's what it's going to look like. And let's actually get you to the link once again, and I'll get this up in the chat as well. It'll be in the video description. Again, table analysis, only question type on the GMAT where you get to sort stuff. So here you go sort stuff. I'm not sure if it still says this on the site, but this is actually not from an exam. Okay, that's been removed. So most of you have probably not seen this question before. I don't even think it's Googleable. So we're going to see how you're doing. Let us know how you're doing on this one. All right. If you need a little more time, feel free to hit that pause button for everybody else. Let's get in here. Thank you, Ishan. And I don't want anybody thinking in terms of, hey, there's traps everywhere. They're out to get me, because that is not what the test is doing. They're trying to measure your ability to power through data, even when it might feel a little bit ambiguous or be too much data, draw insights from things. I mean, they're really trying their very best, not out to trap you. Now, where you're going to make the mistakes, it is the language traps. It's really easy to do here. Now, this one's a little bit less conventional. It's not what you expect out of an Excel table. Still warming you up a little bit. This isn't as hard as the last couple we're going to do, I think, for most people. The key here, digest, read everything first. If you don't, you're going to get yourself into trouble. And by the way, I'm seeing lots of mistakes from the live group. Folks are really struggling. So I'm getting two sets of comments at once that I find fascinating. I'm getting people saying, easy, easy, easy. This is easy. Stupid ninja. Why'd you pick such an easy question? I'm also seeing a lot of people missing it. So welcome to table analysis. How you think you're doing might not match how you're actually doing, one way or the other, to be honest. So watch your back, read really carefully. Yet I'm saying all these easy peasy. Good. I'm glad you feel that way, but your answer is wrong. Okay. Love it. Read first, people. Read first. Digest the information. Gordon's not going to donate unless, for both finance and accountability, it's at least as highly rated as any of the other charities in the same category. Personally, I found it easier to sort by category. What we're basically saying is for him to consider donating to it, a prerequisite is that charity must, within its own category, be as good or better than the others in that category in terms of both finances and accountability. Okay, so what do we mean by that? Well, when we look at the community one, so Together We Will has a higher rating on finance than Civica, but Civica has a higher rating on accountability. So guess what? He's not going to donate to either of those because there is no one charity that is at least as good as the others based on these two criteria. Now, also notice in that description, and this is where I'm seeing a ton of mistakes here from the live group, Gordon may have other criteria that would prevent him from donating to one or more of these charities. So a whole lot of folks here saying, this is easy, I got it. And everyone I've seen say that has the question wrong, which is totally fascinating. So got to work on that mindset, guys. If your brain is going easy, watch your back, read carefully. Don't get complacent. You're getting complacent. That's where the errors come from. Adaptive test. It's going to bite you in the butt. Okay. So from here, maybe I can glance at the question choices here and say, Gordon will donate to at least one of these charities. He'll donate to at least most one of these charities. Gordon will not donate to a charity in the community category. Okay, so let me just get my head around what he's going to do. He's not donating to community. I can see that right away based on the criteria. What about environment? Well, okay, I think Green World is the one that he would consider, right? It is at least as good in finances. So Eco Society, Green World both get 2 stars for finances, but nobody gets better than that. So it checks the box on finances. Accountability over there, it's, again, tied for the best of the 3. Good enough. Since nobody beats it in either category, Green World is a candidate. Same logic here for health. This one's easier to see. Healthy Hearts is better than Solutions in Medicine for finances and just as good in accountability. So those are your 2 options. These are 2 charities he would consider donating to. But again, notice that last line of the paragraph above. He may have other criteria that prevent him from donating to one or more of the charities. Do we know that he's going to donate to at least one? Nope. Here's 2 that he could donate to, but look at that last line. The money's not in the chart here. It's in that paragraph. He may have other criteria that prevent him. He might not donate to any at all. So does not indicate the statement is correct. So the answer to the first one is no. And that's where most of the crowd got this one wrong. Very interesting. All right. Donate to at most one of these charities. That's also wrong. We know that there's 2 that he could donate to. We don't know that he will, but he's going to donate to somewhere between 0 and 2, 0, 1, or 2, depending on this exterior criteria. And third one, he will not donate to a charity in the community category. Thank you, GMAT. You gave me one that's straightforward. I know this is true because there is no charity of those 2 that is tied or better in both categories. So we know that one is a yes. So no, and yes for this one. That was fascinating. And live group, thank you so much. I mean, when you guys are making mistakes on these sorts of things, it is incredibly valuable for me and for other viewers, because it's great to see the honesty when people go, this is easy, and then mess it up. Exactly the point of this stuff. And Pooja, great to see you here as always. No, it's not difficult. Don't think that difficult is about math or the complexity of the table. That is not what these are. They're hard because drawing the inference is harder. There's something that you can overlook. The enemy is overlooking things and getting complacent. You're almost never going to see a hard data table with hard calculations. Almost never. There's a few that are a little funky, but the math itself, almost never hard on table analysis. The tables themselves, almost never hard. It's making sense of them, sometimes tricky, And more importantly, look at how challenging this question can be, because you really have to pay attention to all these criteria, keep them straight. That's the tough part. And hey, guys in the live group, stop picking on Mark. All right. Thank you so much. We're going to give you one more. This one, we are, I don't think on this one, we're going to even, you don't even need a link here, because this one is, you're not going to have to sort. So go ahead and take 2 minutes here. And again, live group, keep it coming. Keep it coming. The more misconceptions, the better, the more we can help you along. So go ahead and take a couple minutes on this one. One of my favorites. And no need for a link for this one. What you see on the screen is all you need, I promise. So we're not going to give you a link here. And honestly, that's probably nice of us, because I have a feeling that if you had the chance, some of you might just maniacally sort, and you'd kind of miss the point. Live crowd will give you about 20 or 30 more seconds. If you got an answer, pop it in there. If you're struggling, let us know that too. Super helpful. All right. If you're not watching it live, hit the pause button if you need to. Everybody else, let's get in here. Great question, Ashan. A few general things here. Ashan, how do we use the whiteboard in such questions? Do you write the numbers, values, comparisons? Table analysis specifically, I would not broaden this out to data insights in general, because you get some questions that are really mathy, and you're going to be doing a whole bunch of stuff on the board, or critical reasoning-ish, where you might be writing out the conclusion or whatever, depending on what you need to do to make your brain work. Table analysis, honestly, it's pretty rare that there's anything I'm going to write down that's massively detailed. On that previous question, or the first question we did, where we've got the grades, yeah, I'm going to write out that math, for example. Here, I'm not going to copy the table down. My head's going to explode. It's going to be misery. So you've got to be really strategic about what you write down. There's no single answer to this, but I wouldn't knee-jerk write things down on table analysis. I write it down only if I really, really need it. Great question, Nishan. I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, a couple other quick things. If you are enjoying this video, and I'm going to say this before I embarrass some of you with the answer on this one, because I'm seeing a lot of wrongness in the live crowd, which again is brilliant. Thank you so much, everybody, for punching in. Next session, multi-source reasoning, mother-in-law of all data insights question types. It's a beast. You get typically 3 tabs, tons of information. It's quant, it's verbal, it's everything mixed together. Please join us for that one. If you are enjoying these videos, as always, please hit that like button. Helps other test takers find the videos so we can serve people a little better here at GMAT Club. Again, these videos are priced right. I'll give you a refund if you don't like it. Okay, so this one, don't need to sort anything. Nothing super hard here in terms of the graph itself. What do we have? Again, let's always read that paragraph first. Designs websites for minority-owned businesses, and it's designed, okay, that's pretty generic there. And we have different minority groups and different criteria, and that's really all they told us, and that's interesting. Okay, first question. A majority of the businesses or the respondents believe that adding a website could benefit their businesses. Well, the survey asked about potential benefits. Like, do you think that expanding your customer base would be a benefit of your website? And somewhere between 25 and 29% say yes. Okay. Do you think it would help improve communication? 4 to 15% say yes. Well, one thing you might notice, and it's interesting to me that they didn't point this out, very deliberate on the part of the question writers. They didn't point out that respondents could choose more than one. How do I know that? If you do some addition here, so if you look at the Latinos, for example, in that leftmost column, you add up those numbers. If I'm not mistaken, you get 110%. So possible that you believe that multiple benefits are there if you build a website for your business. Okay, interesting. Maybe not super consequential for question number 1, but one of those things that it helps you if you're digesting that as you go a little bit. Okay. A majority of the businesses believe adding the website could benefit their businesses. Well, how do we find this? We know that some of them said there is no benefit or that they're uncertain. Notice that across the board, these numbers add up to something that's less than 50%. That suggests that more than 50% believe it could benefit their businesses. So supported is correct here. Number 2, fewer than 25% of respondents who believe a website could help expand their customer base also believe a website could help them maintain their current market share. Well, here's the 2 that you're interested in, right? And I think the knee-jerk reaction from most people when they see this, and we've seen plenty of students already really struggle on this guy, who believe a website. So you just look at these 2 and go, well, how do I know how much overlap there is? I don't know. I can't conclude that. So the knee-jerk reaction, that impulse is not supported because I don't know how many of the ones who said expand the customer base is a benefit would also say preserve market share. You just don't know if there's any overlap. Is there complete overlap, no overlap at all, partial overlap? We don't know. The instinct is to say, I don't know, so I'm going to pick not supported. But notice the language here. And I know everyone's tired of hearing that, especially this guy who's telling me to stop repeating stuff. So percent of the respondents. So that's very different than saying how many respondents. We don't know how many. But do we know that fewer than 20% of the respondents who believe that it could expand their customer base, do we know whether fewer than 25% would say that it would preserve market share? We actually do. Look at these numbers. So 6% for Latinos, 6% say that it would preserve market share, 26% say it would expand the customer base. 6% is less than 25% of that 26%. So less than a quarter. So if we say, pretend there's 100 people for a moment, among the Latinos, pretend there's 100 Latinos, 26 of them in this example believe that it would help expand their customer base. 6 believe it would preserve their market share. 6 is less than 25% of 26. So that means that fewer than 25% of the Latinos who believe that it would expand their customer base also believe it would preserve market share. So yes, fewer than 25% for Latinos, because 6 over 26 gives you less than 25%. Same deal with the African Americans, 6 over 29%. 4 over 25 for the Asian Americans, 6 over 25 for the Native Americans across the board. You could do the math. You could multiply these percentages out times the number of respondents, and you'll keep getting the same thing. Even if the overlap is perfect, everybody who says preserve market share also said expanding the customer base. You do that math, you get less than 25% every time. Feels counterintuitive, but this is supported. And number 3, Only a small proportion of the respondents are concerned that they're losing market share. Here's the part that says preserve market share. But notice the phrasing of the question, and everyone's tired of hearing that. Only a small proportion of respondents are concerned that they're losing market share. That's not what this survey was. This survey is the potential benefit of a website. So yeah, only 4% or 6% believe that the website's going to help them preserve market share. But guess what? That doesn't tell us what percent of respondents are concerned about losing market share. It's just only a small percentage believe it's going to help them preserve market share. So this is not supported. And our answer to that one is no. So yes, yes, and no for this one. All right. Good question here, Potter. I appreciate that. What's the definition of majority in the first statement? It's funny. This is not the kind of thing we necessarily need to think about in real life. It can be kind of hand wavy. Majority just means more than 50%. You're also going to run into some data insights questions where they're going to use the word most, and the assumption there is that that also means more than half, and they seem to be kind of operating on that definition: majority more than half, most for more than half. So there you go. Okay, any other general questions I need to hit here? All right. Good question here, actually. Is table analysis the reverse of reading comp? Check the question first for the table later. I wouldn't do that. I would digest first. I'd make sure that you read that little paragraph every time, get your head around the information that you're provided. Say the same thing on all the other question types, to be honest, except for data sufficiency, graphical interpretation. Read the information you're given, get your head in general around the information that you have there, and then you can look at the questions. But I wouldn't jump straight to the questions, because then you risk blasting through whatever the passage says, and that's when you're more likely to trip over your own feet there. Okay, one last question here. And that's what it's going to look like. But last one, we're going to give you a link here, and I'll toss it in here as well. And again, if you're watching this not live, the link will be in the video description. Live crowd, I just popped it into the chat. You can also type in that URL if you prefer it. All right, we'll give you about 30 more seconds. If you're watching this live, please let us know how you're doing. Toss in your answers. And if your head's exploding, let us know that too, please. All right. This is delightful, getting plenty of disagreement here already off the live group. So thank you guys so much. So we'll hop into this in just a second. Bao, great question here. Provides a great little teaser for the next video. So you're watching episode 3 in our little Data Insights live series. Episode number 4 is going to be multi-source reasoning. And Bao, I think that's what you're referring to here. It's just a table analysis. Typically, again, some of these can get hard. Some of these can get cumbersome. Sometimes you get stuck here, just like any other kind of question. But I'd probably argue that table analysis, we can debate, but table analysis is certainly one of the more straightforward data insights question types. You're less likely to get bogged down on these than you are on some of the others. Multi-source reasoning, I think, is one you're referring to here. Multi-source reasoning on data insights, 3 tabs typically, sometimes 2, usually 3. Tons of information. Now it's 3 questions, 3 separate questions for each set of tabs. That's going to be our next video. Please join us for that one. That is by far the most intimidating. We can argue about difficulty, but certainly the most intimidating the answer choices. Please join us for that. And again, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. All right, that bought some of you guys a little bit of extra time to think through this. And let's get into this puppy. Again, can't say it enough. Digest the information first. Mistakes I'm seeing out of the live group, lots of kind of lunging at stuff. That's where the errors come from. Adaptive test. Don't miss the questions you're capable of getting right. Let the test beat you. Don't beat yourself. Sounds really silly, but I promise you it is absolutely the key to stability in your scores. Be really careful on the stuff you know how to do. Nothing super, super hard here. Again, not super intimidating. If you're really paying attention to the last question, hopefully you'll see the joke in this one, or some of the jokes anyway. So always read that paragraph first. They tell us useful things. Hey, there's no other response options. You can't choose more than one option. Not everybody gave an opinion for every activity. Cool. Good to know. Only 100 parents. That's kind of cool too. All right. So first question, did most respondents who indicated, here we go again, of a subgroup, what can we infer about some other group? Same sort of thing we saw in that last question. Very, very typical. Feels kind of like overlapping sets that you see all the time on quant, right? Did most respondents who indicated that they somewhat agreed that class sizes should be reduced also indicate that they somewhat agreed that music classes should be added? So reducing the class sizes, I'm sorting by somewhat agree there, that little blue column. 47% say they somewhat agree in reducing class sizes, and 22% agree that music classes should be added. This is just like the last one we did. We have no idea how much overlap there is here. Who knows? Maybe it's completely different people who said somewhat agree to both of these. Maybe it's exactly the same people. So the instinct is to say, I don't know exactly how many, so it can't be determined. But look at the phrasing of the question again. I know everyone's tired of hearing that. Did most respondents, so at least half of them. So if 100 parents here, there are 100. 47 people said they somewhat agree in reducing class sizes. 22 said that they want to add music classes. 22 divided by 47, less than half. Even if the overlap is perfect, less than half here indicate that they somewhat agreed, would agree that music classes should be added. So no matter what, it's less than half. So the answer to this question is no. Did most respondents indicate that they somewhat agreed? So did most respondents who indicate that they agree in class size reduction, did most of them also want to add music classes? No, but that's not the question. The question is, can it be determined? Yes, it can be determined. We know for sure. Oops, I got the wrong one highlighted there, but to be reduced class sizes, not the expanding library hours. Doesn't change the punchline that yes, we know the answer to this. We can answer that question. The answer is no. So the answer can be determined. All right, these get a little easier from here, and then we'll let you off the hook and go enjoy the rest of your day. What percentage of all respondents chose not to give an opinion about whether athletic facilities should be improved? Here's your improving athletic facilities. Really straightforward here. All you have to do is add this up. You don't really even have to add it up. All you need to know is that you can add it up and see how many are left over. In this case, I think it turns out that you add up those numbers. I think you get 99% if I'm not mistaken. And okay, so 1% didn't give an opinion at all on the athletic facilities. So can we answer this question? Yes, we can. Last question. What percentage of all respondents indicated they strongly disagreed with all 4 actions? 2%. Well, that's 2% that disagreed with that one. That's 2 people. What did they agree on the others? I don't know. Did they strongly disagree with all 4? I don't know what those 2 people thought on the others. So this is the one that we cannot be determined. Okay, I'm going to quickly see if there's any general questions that I missed here. I'm not seeing a ton. Um, yeah, so still getting all these questions about timing. Yeah, I don't want to make it too mechanical on this. On average, you have 2 minutes and 15 seconds per data insights question. If you're getting stuck on something, don't let yourself get stuck. Guess and move on. Remember, you can always change answers. So if something's taking you 3 minutes, 4 minutes on something like a table analysis question, it's not to say that you need to be watching the clock and going, oh, I'm over 3 minutes. I better bail now. I just want you to stay conscious. If you're totally lost, walk away. Give that same advice on quant all the time. Same thing on data insights. So in theory, 2 minutes and 15 seconds. In practice, obviously, some questions are going to be faster, some are going to be slower. That's okay. But the big key is, as you work on these, develop that flexibility, develop that attention to detail. Table analysis in particular, please, please, please digest first before you jump in. That's what's going to help you build your efficiency. Okay. All right. I think that's it for today. I think that's enough table analysis. Again, next video, multi-source reasoning, going to be much more painful. Those tend to intimidate people. Going to give you some tactics to help you slice through that mess. How to eat an elephant one bite at a time. Then we'll do some data sufficiency. Episode number 5, data sufficiency is it's different than the old data sufficiency, maybe not massively, but we're going to help you get in the right mindset. Make sure that you get the ones right that you're capable of getting right. Execute well. Adaptive testing. Every section's adaptive on the new GMAT. Make sure that you don't miss the ones you're capable of getting right. So we're going to give you some really good processes, make you super, super consistent in that data sufficiency video. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Live audience in particular, thank you so much for the participation, and we'll see you all next time.